Greetings, Flosstube. It's been a while. It is Wednesday, March 13th, 2018, and I'm totally taking advantage of a snow day to get another video done. I know it's been a while since my last one, and basically it's just, well, let me see if I can, that's better. That was kind of in my face, my light there. It's just been kind of a crazy year so far. Nothing really wrong. Nothing's been wrong as to why I haven't gotten back to do another video. It's just, time gets away from you. I have to admit, I've kind of got the distraction of other craft projects going on at the moment. I'm doing a project to donate to the Richmond Children's Hospital, and I'm going to do a separate video on that because while it's sewing, it's felt applique, not anything cross-stitch related. So I'll keep that to a separate video. But I've been busy working on that. Towards the end of January, I got a cold, and I know better than to try to stitch when I am feeling less than 100%, whether it's emotionally or physically, because, yeah, don't ask me how I know that. I just know better than to try to stitch when I'm not feeling well. And it took me about a week to get over the cold. Fortunately, I didn't have the flu or anything like that. But, a cold makes you feel thick-headed, and just, it's like, I'm not going to touch anything that I'm going to have to redo later. It's just not going to happen. So I took a little bit of a break from stitching then, and then winter workouts started, and Bill was getting up super early on Fridays to go to work, and so I was just getting up at 5:30 and leaving and going to work myself. So those nights I really didn't feel like stitching when I got home, and just life intervening. Nothing wrong, just stuff. Mostly just getting distracted and with other projects, and then having the cold. So but I have gotten back to my stitching. I've made a little bit of progress on a few pieces. I do have one finished I'll show you here in a minute if you didn't see that on my Facebook page. And because I'm trying really hard not to start new things, but I failed miserably, yeah, I'm just trying to do a little bit of work on a bunch of different pieces every week. I have to admit, I like the freedom of not having any deadlines or anything that I have to meet, and just being able to relax and enjoy my stitching and say, oh, I want to work on this one today, and I pull it out of my stash and work on it, and there's no expectation of a finish or no self-imposed deadlines for gift deadlines or anything. It's just been really nice. I have done some serious haul over the past 2 months, I have to admit, because I'm not starting anything, but you know how that goes. When you're not starting anything, you still buy fabric so you can start things. And I've gotten a really nice gift from Farm Boys Love that I'll show you here in a minute, and some stash, mostly Lizzie Kate's. I have to admit, when I stitched my first Lizzie Kate, I fell in love with her patterns, and then of course that's when she's going to retire. I'm totally late to the party. I always am. So I'm just going to jump right in. I'll show you my finish, and then I'll show you my stash and a little bit of progress I've made on some of my pieces. So my first finish for the year is the Lizzie Kate that I was working on over the holidays. This was the first ever Lizzie Kate I stitched, and like I said, of course I got into her just as she was retiring, but some stash enhancement took care of that, and I'm set for anything I ever want to stitch from Lizzie Kate. But this is the one that I finished for We Walk by Faith, Not by Sight. Now, that is not the charm that came with the pattern, but it basically, somewhere over the holidays, I lost the charm that it came with. It was a little heart with a cross in it, but I just went on the Stony Creek website and found a little cross charm. I stitched this on, well, I had a fat 1/8 of the fabric, so I guess it's technically, what, a fat 16th. And it was, I believe this was the Carnival from Picture This Plus. I don't know, I wrote it on the pattern, but I sent the pattern to Danielle as just a little thinking of you gift. So I think it was Carnival. And it's really pretty because when I bought the fabric, I was a little bit concerned it was going to be too pink, too pinky pink, but it's actually a very pretty peach. Still trying to get that light right. Y'all know by now my lighting in here stinks. I just wish I had an overhead light, but I don't. So anyway, but it's a real pretty kind of pale peach. So I would almost consider it a neutral because there's not a lot of really, you know how sometimes Picture This Plus fabric has the really dramatic swirls and dark colors. This has a little bit of patterning to it, but it's very subtle. So if you were looking for something other than just a beige or a tan or whatever to stitch on, but you didn't want massive amounts of color, Carnival, at least this piece that I got, is a very nice subtle hand-dyed piece. I used the called for Weeks Dye Works threads, which I love. And I just really, I don't know, there was just something very, at the time I was stitching this, just very peaceful about it. And something I just really enjoyed. So I fell in love with Lizzie Kate's. And like I said, this is the first finish of the year and probably maybe one of the few that I actually will get finished. But I don't know, it was just sweet. And it's my minister's favorite Bible verse, for we walk by faith, not by sight. And so I'm going to give this to her for an early birthday present. Her birthday is actually in the middle of July, but the way our church works, which I have to admit is kind of an interesting way to run a church, but I don't know if this is just because we're a small New England country church or if it's part of the actual congregational church methodology, but we run our church year the same as the school year. It starts up in September, goes through June, and then when July comes around, our church actually, our minister will go on vacation for a month, and our church invites another local church to join us. It used to be South Deerfield, but their church closed because they couldn't get over themselves 5 minutes long enough to keep the church open. But that's a whole other story for a different video. So their minister used to come to our church and their congregation would come to our church and we would hold a joint service in our church for the month of July. And then in August, their minister would go on vacation for a month and our minister would go to their church and we'd all go over there for services. Like I said, the South Deerfield church went the way of the dodo. It didn't have to, but it did. So now we do the church exchange, as I call it, with the North Leverett Church, which is about 20 minutes from here. So because she's going to go on vacation in July, I'll have to get this framed and give it to her in June. But, you know, it'll be an early birthday present for her. I'm also stitching for her the Clouds Factory Snow White. But I'm leaving off Snow White and the Evil Queen and just doing the dwarves because she is obsessed with the 7 dwarfs. I mean, she's got all the plush dwarfs at the church for the kids. And she collects anything Snow White. So that'll probably be my next project to finish for her. But that's just another one of my whips that I've got. I actually had misplaced that one for a while and just found it a little while ago when I was going through my stash and organizing it. So yeah, so that one will eventually get finished. But this will be my first completely finished object, and I will give that to her in June. So yeah, that's my first finish for the year. I think I will show you some progress I've made, and then we'll do the haul. Like I said, I've gotten a little bit done on a few projects, so there's not a whole lot to show you, but it's enough that I think you might like to see it. The first one I have is I got back to stitching on Ink Circles 99. And for those of you who know why I'm doing this piece, I'm actually going to see the guy I'm making it for twice this year, but yeah, it's not going to be done until, it's not going to probably be done till next year, but so I'm making this for a friend of mine who works in the fountain pen community who enjoys craft beers. And actually, now that I think about it, he's doing the keto diet with his wife, so he might not have even had a beer in a while. So maybe this will be like cruel and unusual punishment when I give it to him. But, you know, because all the carbs in beer, that's like when you go carb free, that's like the first thing you give up, right? And his wife is doing it for some health related issues. So he is doing it with her. And they both look fantastic. They look like they're doing really well, staying healthy and everything. But I just realized he probably hasn't had a beer since this time last year, but it's okay. He can have a virtual cross-stitched beer and, you know, avoid the guilt of the carbs, right? So I've almost got the first row finished, but I kind of stalled out over here on the Rolling Rock because for some reason I cannot get that bottle to match up, or I couldn't, and I restitched it, and I was just like, forget about it. I can't do it anymore. Bill was like, you better put the beer bottle down before you get really mad at yourself. Because, I mean, it basically, once you stitch one of the little beer bottles, once you stitch one of them, you know, you just follow that pattern for the outline of the bottles. But for some reason, the Rolling Rock one, I just could not get the bottle to behave. So I finally got it to behave, and then I was just like, I can't stitch beer bottles anymore right now. So some of the ones in this particular part of the pattern, the one right here is Sapporo, a Japanese beer. Of course, the one over here, the first green one, is a Heineken. That one, what is that one called? It's a common beer from it's put out by the Chorus Company. Blue Moon, is that it? And then the one that I really like, that I have to wonder what it tastes like, this one here. This one is Fat Yak Ale from Matilda, Australia. And I like the fact that the designer gives you the names of the beers so that you can just kind of know what you're stitching. What I've done as I've stitched a beer bottle is I've looked it up online, looked the beer up online to see what the beer bottle actually looks like. And to be little pixelated small beer bottles, these do look exactly like their counterparts. I mean, if you look up the Sapporo one, that's exactly what the Sapporo beer bottle looks like, or the beer can even. So it's amazing to me that she could get that much detail to be able to identify different craft beers and different specialty beers out of such a small little cross-stitch pattern. So, oh, excuse me. Apparently I can't breathe and talk at the same time. So hopefully, I don't know, with me being snowed in today, hopefully I can get this row finished and be, you know, 88 bottles to go. Because there's 11 on every row. So, yeah. Hopefully I can get that done. But that Rolling Rock beer bottle, it's just like, beer should not be annoying in any way. Unless you have to clean up after a drunk on St. Patrick's Day night or something, then it should probably be annoying. But this is a fun stitch. This is a fun one, and I have to admit, I like how easy it is to get a little miniature finish out of each beer bottle. Because it doesn't take long. It maybe takes 20 minutes to stitch each beer bottle. Unless you get to the Rolling Rock one like I did. And then you're like, okay, enough of beer. I like wine better anyway. But, and I'm stitching it on the called for 32 count nails, so that'll really be nice when I get that done. And I hadn't worked on this in months, so it was nice to pull this out and make some progress, even if I did stall out a little bit. It was nice to just be able to get that done. Now, Leilani, I actually started in 2016 when we were going to Hawaii with the football team, and then I messed her up real bad, and I started her over last year. But I hadn't really done a lot with her. I took her with me to the beach last year, and I got her hair worked on, but I really didn't do a lot with her. But as you can see, I pulled her out a couple weeks ago. I was able to finish her hair and put her arm in, or at least start putting her arm in. So I've actually made some progress on this one. You know, a lot of times with my stitching, it's just taking the time to sit down and do it and not be distracted by other projects I want to finish as gifts or things like that. That to me last year was my biggest distraction on getting anything accomplished. Was I had so many different pieces I was working on for gifts, and like last year I definitely wanted to get Nutty Parade finished first and foremost of anything. But you know, when you actually take the time to sit down and work on a piece, you know, it feels good to make some progress, even if it's not much. But like I said, I finished her hair and I started putting her arm in, so I'm pleased with the progress I'm making on this. I'm stitching it on a 32 count piece of Masquerade from Picture This Plus. Now, this is one of those Picture This Plus ones that I was talking about that has a lot of really bright color. It's kind of a pale mint green, but it's got a lot of really, really nice, pretty purple swirls in it. And this kind of reminded me of all the tropical flowers I saw when I was in Hawaii, the hibiscus and everything. So that's why I chose to do it on this fabric. And I think it's turning out well. I'm pleased with the progress I'm making on this one. So that one was one that I was happy to say I made some progress on. Actually, I'm not going to keep my magnetic boards in with my stitching. I probably shouldn't anyway, just to keep it from getting wrinkled, but that way then when I need a magnetic board, I don't have to go hunting for whichever cross stitch I left it in last time. So yeah, that one's coming along nicely. Just made a little progress on that. What is this one? What is this one? Oh, Bethlehem. Oh, this piece is gorgeous. I'm going to really have a hard time giving this one up, but I want to finish it and get it framed to donate to the church for the gingerbread fair in December, because that's, quite frankly, our biggest fundraiser of the year. I mean, we do suppers, and we do one supper a month, and we do the men's group does Saturday country breakfast once a month. So, you know, those are good fundraisers too. But the biggest one we have is what we call our gingerbread fair. And it's always the second Saturday in December. And we do, well, we can't call it a raffle because raffles are illegal in Massachusetts. But we sell chances to win the quilt that the chapel quilters spent all year making. We'll just put it that way because we can't technically call it a raffle. And, you know, then we do coffee can purchase tickets and give away for a raffle because, yeah, we can't call it a raffle, but they take, it's kind of a neat concept, but you take one of those big, you know, like Maxwell House coffee cans, and you take donations of different little things you can fill it up with, and then whoever wins the coffee can wins all the stuff that's in it. And in the past, I've made a few little cross-stitch things, ornaments and stuff to put in it. But this year, I wanted to make something that could be, it could get some money for the church and more than just a couple of, oh, who is texting me? Anyway, just a couple of bucks here and there. So when I found the pattern, I talked about this pattern in my whip parade in my first video of the year, which I guess is my only one. But I just fell in love with this pattern, and it is just amazing. And I'm going to have such a hard time giving it up. But it's the Bethlehem pattern by Imaginating Designs. And they also have the one that's the Three Kings, which is very similar to this one. But I love these kind of, what would you call it, like just monochrome patterns. And what color am I using here? I'm using 3847, which is a really, really pretty teal green. And I got a little bit done. I had to frog that tree on the end because I was off by one stitch, of course, because you're never off by like 50 stitches when you make a mistake, where it's like so obvious astronauts on the space station can see your mistake. It's just like one, you know, one little stupid stitch that's going to throw the rest of it off. But I'm making some progress. I'm probably going to put more work in on this one because, you know, I do want to have it done by late fall. But if I stitch a little bit on it every day, I should have it done no problems. And I'm stitching it on a piece of 32 count sand colored linen that I bought from 123 Stitch. And I bought a fat quarter, but because of the shape of this cross stitch, with it being a long one like that, I cut I think I told you all this on my other video. I cut the fat quarter, but I cut it down the middle, like, you know, short side this way, long side going up and down, so that I would have a long enough piece to do it on. So that one is going to come along nicely. I should probably put a little bit more time in on this one, but, you know, hey, it is what it is. And it's funny because I was working on 99 in my car one day at work on my lunch break, and I posted a picture, I guess it was to my Facebook page, and I said, well, since drinking on the job is frowned upon, I'll just stitch beer bottles instead. And one of my friends from church, she was asking me about my cross stitch, and she's like, so how many projects do you have going at one time? And I was like, you don't want to know. Last count it was 18, but I've actually added a couple since, well, I've only added one since the first of the year. But that still completely busted up my no new starts till summer thing. So I'm also doing the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery Winter Wonderland sampler, and I actually started that last December, but I had started it on a piece of that masquerade fabric that I was using for Leilani, and I only stitched a little bit of it. I only stitched the first little motif. I was like, you know, this fabric just does not jive with these colors. This is just not going to work. So I started it over on March 1st. On a piece of Silk Weaver's fabric, and what I didn't realize about the pattern when I started it before is that on the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery patterns, they actually put the red lines where the center of the pattern is, so it's very easy to find the center. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to start in the center then, because it was, you know, I couldn't at that point find my little square thing. You know what I'm talking about, the little lucite square that everybody uses to mark over to start at the left hand corner of the page. The ones that come in the cute little fabric sleeve that you buy on Etsy. My mind is just shut down. I probably should have let the coffee kick in a little more before I started doing my video, but you know, hey, it is what it is. With me, what you see is what you get. I don't do fancy dancy edited videos. I don't, you know, put music in. I don't edit. I have crappy lighting. You know, I don't put makeup on. I sit around in my pajamas like I am now, but hey, it's a snow day. I'm not getting dressed today if I don't have to. You know, so what you see is what you get with me. I could probably be a little more polished, but then I wouldn't be me. So I started this one over because I was having a really crappy week at work. That's been another thing that's kind of put me off my stitching, is that I'm just having such a crappy time at work this year so far that I'm just like, you know, for when I do feel like stitching, it's because I want to be creative and I want to have a creative outlet for my, you know, just to get rid of my tensions. But sometimes the tensions are just such a pain in the butt that I'm like, no, I'm not going to touch anything, because then I'll screw it up and I'll get mad at that too. And I don't want to take my work stress out on my cross stitch. But I thought, you know what, Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery, I have to say, cute little kawaii creatures and inanimate objects, that's got to bring a smile to your face, right? So I started this one over. This is on a 32 count piece of Silk Weavers, and it's sand opalescent. And this is day 13 on the advent calendar. It's the cutest. I mean, I have to say, is that not totes adorbs, as the young'uns would say these days? Although I think if my niece and nephew said totes adorbs, my sister would she would not be happy with that. But isn't that cute? That's day 13, the little Christmas present. And I haven't put the border around it or the number 13 because I really didn't do much with it after I started it over. But it's cute, isn't it? I should take the hoop off. I should know better than to leave a hoop on a piece of fabric when I'm not working on it. Sometimes I can't get out of my own way enough to just, I don't know. Don't ask. I can't explain. It's just me, folks. Just me. Definitely the embodiment of it. You are your own worst enemy at times. So I did a little bit on that one, which has been fun. I think it's just something cute about Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery, that they all have the cute little inanimate kawaii objects that just kind of, they're cheerful, you know. You can't be in a bad mood when you're stitching on something like that. And then my last piece, which I showed you in my last video, which was the one new start that busted up my whole New Year's resolution not to start anything new until I made some progress on my other pieces, was the My Heart is Full of Flowers by Carolyn Manning. And it's funny because this year she charted up one that she calls a flower a day sal, and some of the folks on Stitch Mania are working on that one. And I made a comment on one person's that it reminded me of My Heart is Full of Flowers, and she responded that My Heart is Full of Flowers was one she designed in 2011, and it was the inspiration for the idea for the flower a day stitch along. So this was like the grandmother of the current Sal that Carolyn Manning has designed. I don't know how well you can see it. Well, actually, it shows up better than I thought. I just absolutely, I haven't made much progress. I think since the last time I talked to you about this one, which was admittedly a while ago, right after I started it, that little red and pink round flower down there, and then the start of this motif right here, which is going to be a big flower. I'm stitching it on a piece of silk weavers. And at first I thought this is a very, very, very pale pink. I would call it like a blush pink because there's really almost no tint to it whatsoever. Kind of like a baby pink, I guess, if you were going to call it, if you wanted to kind of describe the shade. And I was afraid that because there are a lot of pale colors in the piece that it wouldn't show up. But like, for instance, on this flower here, let me see if I can get it up close enough. On the round flower, which is the one that I told you I had finished, there is pale pink in that, but there's also the real dark red. So I think that the thing is that the really pale colors in this are always surrounded by a brighter color. So it's going to be easy to see. I think if it were all strictly really pale colors, then it wouldn't work on this fabric. But I think she did an excellent job of mixing and matching the colors. So I don't think it's going to be that hard to see the real pale colors even on the paler fabric. So that's pretty much the progress I've made at the moment. Like I said, today is a snow day, so I'm gonna, after I finish this video, tuck into some of my stitching and get some stuff done. So hopefully I'll be able to make another progress video here in a little while. But like I said, the only other thing I've been doing is I've been collecting some haul because I'm trying not to start new things. I did find another amazing, amazing pattern on Etsy, but I'm not going to start it right now. When I do, I will discuss it with you and discuss its personal significance to me, but it's really going to be something. But I'm not going to talk about that yet because I don't want the temptation to start it. I really don't. I don't want the temptation to start anything. So the first thing I wanted to share with you as far as haul, and this isn't anything that I bought, this was just a random act of kindness gift. This is Farm Boys Love. She and I follow each other on Instagram, and I wasn't aware that she watched my videos. But about a month ago, she direct messaged me on Instagram and said, I've been watching your videos and I have something I want to send you. Can you send me your address? And I was like, sure. So I sent it, and I kind of forgot about it, to be honest. And then a little while later, I got a message from her saying, be on the lookout for something from me in your mail in the next day or two. So I was like, oh, well, thank you in advance. You didn't have to do anything. That's really sweet of you. So she said in the card she sent me, she said she'd been watching my videos and she wanted to send me a project bag. And she was going to make one for me, but she just still isn't quite certain enough of her skills with making project bags to send one that she's made. So she found me one and sent it to me. And I guess she saw me talking about my patriotic stuff. Look at this project bag. Is that not freaking awesome? I mean, for someone who's patriotic, is that not like the most awesome? I don't know who she bought this from. She said she found one that she thought I would really like, and so she wasn't going to stress out making me one. And then on the back, it's got the beautiful star of fabric. Whoever made this, wherever you are in Flosstube land or cross stitch Etsy land or wherever it came from, this is really awesome. And Farm Boys Love, thank you so much. You didn't have to do that. It's really sweet of you. So the pattern that I have, the pattern that this is going to hold on to and protect, of course, is Old Glory Sampler, which, of course, I have not worked on in a while. I was going to work on it during the Olympics, but truthfully, I didn't even really watch much of the Olympics this year because I got so turned off by the opening ceremonies when everyone was like drooling and falling at the feet of Kim Yo-jong. I was like, really, don't politicize my sporting events, people. Please let me have some refuge from all the political bull crap in the country and leave my sports alone, because I've always loved the Winter Olympics. I mean, I do like some of the Summer Olympics, like I love gymnastics and the swimming and diving, because there's no way, unless you had a gun to my head, I would ever get on a 3-story tall concrete platform and jump off of it on purpose into a pool. You know, so there are a lot of things I do like in the Summer Olympics, but I've always loved the Winter Olympics more. But I just really didn't, I mean, I watched some of it, but I had planned to work on all my patriotic stitching during the Olympics, but it just fell flat for me. So I really didn't do a lot of stitching, but I love this project bag. And it's the perfect size to hold all my stuff. So again, Farm Boys Love, thank you so much. You certainly didn't have to do that. It was very sweet. And I really appreciate it. And so does my project, because now it can be, because who knows when I'll work on that again, so it can be tucked safely away, not get dirty or anything. So then I decided I had seen all these absolutely beautiful fabrics on Instagram from XG Designs in Hungary. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to have some of her fabric to add to my stash. And I went, and it was very, very hard to pick because I wanted like everything. But, you know, till I hit the Powerball, I can't. And even if I did hit the Powerball, I'd be giving the money to the football team to renovate the stadium. So, not going to happen. So this is a piece of 36 count Zweigart Edinburgh in her color that she calls brick powder. And it's a 13 by 27. And it's a real, it's not going to pick up on my computer with all my lighting issues, but it's a real pretty kind of, I guess I would describe it as like a little bit of a mauve, like a pale, like dusty mauve, but it's really pretty and it feels nice. It doesn't feel rough like some linens can. So there's that one. And then for some reason I decided I was going to try 38 count, like 36 count isn't small enough. The only thing I'm stitching in on 36 count linen is Lady of the Flag, which I haven't pulled her out in a while either. I probably should. And this one is called My Little Dove. And this is also a fat quarter. And it's a beautiful bluey gray. It's so gorgeous. And this, I think, would make a good, I think either of these would be brilliant neutral colors. So I didn't just stop there because, you know, why? She does sell beautiful hand-dyed, over-dyed floss. So I got one of her cards of floss, and it is what I would call the beach collection, because there is, let's see, will my camera focus, focus camera, come on, you can do it, you've done it before. Oh no, my camera is going to be a stubborn cuss today, just like everything else. But this first one is a real pretty pale mint green called Caribbean Island. Then there is a real pretty mauvish raspberry color called Berry Mix. Then there is this absolutely gorgeous, I think this reminds me of one of my favorite fountain pen inks. I think that's why I can't wait to stitch with this particular one. It reminds me of Diamond Regency Blue, which is a really pretty navy blue ink. This one is called Stormy Ocean, which it's really pretty, and it goes from like this really dark navy blue that reminds me of the ink all the way down to like this greenish blue. So that's going to be beautiful to stitch with. It all will be, but that one especially. And then there is one that she just called Vintage Browns that kind of starts as a peachy brown, and it kind of goes through like a darker brownish gray and then some tan on the bottom of the, I'm trying to show this to you and I'm not even putting it in the camera, am I? So it goes down to like a real pretty pale beige. See, folks, this is why I'm just a hot mess who should not try to do anything before the coffee kicks in. I mean, I got woken up by my office at 5:30 to say, oh, by the way, the office is closed. And I went back to sleep until 7, but I just, then I had my coffee and my breakfast, but it's like, really? I mean, it was a no-brainer. We were going to have a day off anyway, but, you know, they have to be very, you know, follow the rules and double check and make sure. Oh, good Lord, my ESPN app is going off on my phone. Now, I downloaded the ESPN app so that I could watch the ESPN3 games on my phone because I couldn't get the ESPN3 channel to work on my computer. But now I get every ESPN alert for every sport that I absolutely cannot tolerate. And I'm sure it's all the March Madness stuff now. You know, I mean, I figure Duke won't win. UVA probably will, so I'm not that into it this year. So as far as pattern stash, I mentioned that I had just gotten into Lizzie Kate's when she decided to retire. And I'm very happy for her that she can, but I'm very sad for the rest of us that there won't be new Lizzie Kates going forward. I think what I really liked about the one that I did, oops, it fell on the floor to speak of it. Oops. The one that I did, the reason that I really liked it, first of all, I liked that it was a Christian saying. And second of all, I really liked just the simplicity of it. You know, if I hadn't been on vacation and running around like a crazy person, I could have stitched it in a week. It was one of the little Lizzie Kate's snippets. And it was just a very sweet, beautiful sentiment that made me just fall in love with her patterns when I looked at them online. So I got a stash. I have to admit, I was one of the ones that freaked out when the day she announced her retirement. And so I went on 123 Stitch and got all the ones out of my wish list. And I do have a few more coming from down Sunshine Lane. I think I have maybe 4 more. But yeah, I probably went overboard. But the nice thing about most of these is that they're real small. So, you know, they don't take any time to stitch. So let's see. Yeah, I got several of the snippets and I got several of the bigger ones. Now, I think I may have shown this one on my last video. I can't remember. But this was the Lizzie Kate, the boxer, the inspiration boxer. Don't ask me why they send it in CD cases, but it's got the little piece of fabric with it. This one is my favorite. Oh, that's not going to show up because it's a CD case. Well, here we can, you know, if at first you don't succeed, cover up all evidence that you tried, right? This is the faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. It's kind of the modern version of faith is the substance of things hoped for and the conviction or evidence of things not seen, which is the older, like King James version of it. It's Hebrews 11:1. And actually, our minister preached on that one this past Sunday, which I think I needed to hear because, well, I mean, it's my favorite verse anyway, but I think I really needed to hear what she had to say about that because you shouldn't feel like you just want to smack someone up the side of their fool head when you're sitting next to them in church, but that's a whole other long story. So yes, I bought this one for myself because faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. That is my favorite Bible verse. So that one will eventually be for myself. And then I just bought a bunch of these little snippets because I really like the fact that she created these little patterns that you could do, you know, over time and, you know, not take that much time, rather, I mean. Oh, Lord, this is a hot mess video. I apologize so much. But the first one I got was part of her bigger rules for Christmas, which was the one that she made where it was the whole long one and she put out each little separate piece. I didn't really want the whole, because the whole thing is Christmas rules: be kind and of good cheer, treasure family, follow law as you decorate, honor traditions, give Santa cookies and milk, no pouting, keep the schedule light, share your toys, listen for reindeer, hang mistletoe, give more than you get, and welcome friends. But I really didn't want to stitch that whole thing because the only part of it I really liked was the be kind and of good cheer because, well, yeah, cardinal on it. I mean, you've heard me talk ad nauseum about how much I love cardinals, so I won't go there again, but I just thought this was really pretty and I like the little snowflake. And then of course the other part of it is treasure family, which was supposed to come right underneath. This was supposed to be the first one on the long list of Christmas rules, and then treasure family was supposed to be underneath. But I think I'm only just going to stitch the be kind and of good cheer because cardinal. And then I got the Merry Christmas string. I have to admit, I've never been one really on samplers, but I thought this one was pretty. I loved the colors in it. Now, I realized looking at it that she skipped some of the letters. It's A, B, C, D, E, F, H, I, J, K, L, She skips M. N-O, P, Q-R. She skips S. T-U, T-U-V, W-X. Oh, I see what it is. Like the letters she skips, she represents in pictures. Okay, well, I was wondering about that when I was looking at it. So like she's got A, B, C, and then D, and the D, E, F, and then the G is a gift. H, I, J, K, L, M is the mistletoe. N, O, P, Q, R. S is the stockings. T, U, V, W is the wreath. X, Y, and Z. I'm sorry, folks. I just realized that. The letters she skipped, she represents with a little image. Dwee. Well, like I said, coffee. Coffee is our friend, folks. Coffee is our friend. And this one I bought, Live Well, Laugh Often, Love Deeply. I thought I could just make it for a craft fair at some point or something. It's actually the then and now because it's got that one, and then it's got Live Simply, Laugh Often, and Love Deeply, which I guess was the first version of it. And then she switched it over to Live Well, Laugh Often, Love Deeply. So it's the then and now. So I like this because it was an inexpensive pattern and you get the 2-for-1 kind of thing. And this one I thought I could make for another, craft fair thing or something. Do small things with great love. I believe Kay stitched that one. If I remember correctly, she stitched that one, and it looked so pretty that I was like, oh, I need to get that one to add to my Lizzie Kate stash. So there's that one. And then this one, I just love this one. This one is, it touches my heart. Wise men still seek him with the manger and the crown. And then just another little one that I could picture being made into a Christmas ornament. I just really like the idea of the old-fashioned Christmas tree with the candles on it. And, of course, birds. So there's that one. And then this one I thought was a really pretty little summer one. Liberty. I thought that one was really pretty. And it was actually part of a series, but I didn't want to do the whole thing. I just liked the Liberty one. And then, of course, a Lizzie Kate jingle that could be made into a cute little ornament. Another cardinal, of course. Like there's anything else to stitch in the wintertime, right? At least if you're me. And then I got, and I'm surprised I got this because I say I don't like samplers, but I really have gotten interested in typography lately. And I kind of consider samplers to be like versions of typography. I've got a Jonathan Adler umbrella I bought at Barnes & Noble a few years ago, and it's just got all this typography on it, just the alphabet, but it's got all these different typefaces and things, and I'm just I find typography very interesting for whatever reason, so I got the winter alphabet. Now, I know they had the spring, summer, and fall one too, but this one was my favorite. The colors in this one spoke to me more. So this is probably, to say this is not my usual style is probably an understatement because I've always said I don't like samplers, but this I think could completely change my mind because it's not just strictly alphabet. It's got some little images in there. It's got mittens and a snowman and reindeer and a little house with the smoke coming out of the chimney, pine cones and stockings. So I think, and the borders and everything, I think that would keep it from being too much like a sampler. I don't know, maybe I should just say I like samplers now, which I don't think I do. But in this case, I really love this version. And it's a small piece. It'll only be 7 by 10. The stitched area would only be 7 by 10. So that would be what? Like the 9 by 12. No, I should not do math in my head, especially before coffee. So the next one I got was the Lizzie Kate's Tiny Tidings 17. Because I really, really love the little reindeer in there. So yeah, I thought that was cute. I love that reindeer. And you know, these could be little quick things to make for a craft fair or make as ornaments. So, and I like the fact that it's 5 different little, I think that's one of the things I like about Lizzie Kate's is when you bought a pattern from her, she gave you several different little mini patterns. And it's nice because, well, there's 5 of them here. So, you know, it's stash enhancement without having to spend as much money as you would if you bought 5 separate patterns. So what have we been talking about all morning? Coffee. So the first one I got is the Coffee Crazy. And I love the Is It Coffee Yet? I'll probably get that one framed and hang it in my kitchen. I'll probably make that one. And then, if that wasn't enough cross stitch of coffee, the 3 little pieces, there's 3 more called Coffee Time. And I absolutely adore this one. My husband would agree. Today's Good Mood is sponsored by coffee. Yeah, because my husband knows, do not even talk to her until she gets the coffee going. Never mind until I drink it. However, though, it takes a while to fight gravity and get up in the brain cells. So you got to give me a delayed reaction when I drink my coffee. Give me a couple of hours after I drink it and I'm good to go. Now this one is one of her newer ones and I absolutely cracked the heck up when I saw it. And it's me. It's me. Dear Santa, I've been good all year. Okay, most of the time. Once in a while. Forget it, I'll buy my own presents. That just cracked me up and made me laugh. Well, made me laugh so hard. So I was like, yeah, that's me. I might as well not even try to be on the nice list because I'm always on somebody's naughty list anyway. So most of the time my own. And so the last Lizzie Kate that I've got out of this 1, 2, 3 stitch stash is Dog Lessons for People. And, you know, my family, since I was in the 2nd grade, throughout the course of my life, we are up to having had 9 dogs. The first dog we got when I was in 2nd grade, way back in 1982. And he lived to 1998. He was a little toy poodle named Buttons, my best friend. And then my mother, after her mother passed away, she got another poodle, a miniature named Pepper. And Pepper lived to, see, that was 2000. So I think 2015 was when he died. And now she has a standard poodle named Butterbear, who is 2 years old, I believe. Either 2 or 3, I can't remember. My sister, when she and her now husband, then boyfriend, were living together in college, they adopted a Springer Spaniel from an animal shelter. It was one of those where they went in and she was scheduled to be put down the day that they went in. So it was kind of one of those impulsive things that they, you know, didn't necessarily think about right away. It was just one of those impulsive things. And they had her for a little less than a year when she died. And so then after that, once they were married, they ended up getting 2 English Cocker Spaniels, brothers, Rocky and Elvis. And that was, they had those dogs. You know, those were the dogs that my niece and nephew were growing up with. And then one of them died in 2015 and one died in 2016. So I'm trying to think of how old the Bassets are now. The Bassets, I think, are 2 years old now. So when Rocky died first, sadly, he had stomach cancer. He died, and they got their Irish setter. He died in 2014 because the Irish setter is 4 years old now. So he died in 2014, and they got a female red and white Irish setter, who I just absolutely adore the heck out of. I'm so obsessed with Irish setters now, the red and white ones. Named Gingerbread. And then when Elvis died in 2015, they ended up getting 2 Basset Hounds. They're not related. I think they might be cousins if they are related, but they're not brothers like Rocky and Elvis were, but their names are Ozzy and Wilbur. So we've had 9 dogs in the family since I was in 2nd grade. So Dog Lessons for People just seemed like a sweet one to stitch for my mother and for my sister. So this might be the only one that I stitched twice. But I just love it. It's Dog Lessons for People. Be loyal and faithful. Play every day. Drink lots of water. Forgive quickly. Avoid biting when a growl will do. Sit close and listen. Follow your instincts. Give more than you receive. Take naps. Be a best friend and love unconditionally. And that is just the cutest thing. I love the little fire hydrant. And actually, the little white dog on there almost looks like Ozzy, because Ozzy is a white basset hound with the tan spots. And Wilbur is, they named him after the Pennsylvania candy Wilbur Buds, because he's black with like dark chocolate brown markings and a little bit of white on him too, but he's mostly dark. So they named him after the chocolate candy Wilbur Buds. So those are my Lizzie Kates that I have now. And, you know, I'm just going to enjoy stitching these. And you know what? At some point when I do stitch them, I'll probably pass the stash, because there won't be, with the exception of like maybe the Dear Santa and the Dog Lessons for People, I wouldn't be stitching them more than once. So, you know, I'll probably eventually do a pass the stash of some of these. But I like just the size of them, and, you know, how the colors she charted them with. And I like using the Weeks Dye Works and the specialty threads, because it just gives, I don't know, it just gives a little something extra that makes them really pretty. So that's my Lizzie Kate stash. And then my last stash, I actually bought a couple of project bags from this young lady on Etsy, who her shop is called Marine Parents. And I find her story really cute. She didn't know how to use a sewing machine. Her husband was the one in the family who knew how to use the sewing machine, and he taught her how to sew. And since she's learned, she's just become obsessed with stitching project bags. And she stitches all kinds of different little bags for all kinds of different things. And I bought a couple of her small project bags, which came in the mail yesterday. Poor thing, when she sent me my receipt on Etsy, she said, "I'm sorry it took so long, but I'm newly pregnant and I'm sick as a dog and it's been a rough first trimester." I'm like, oh no, take your time. Take your time. Little ones can kick your butt, especially when it's your first one and you haven't, your body's like, wait a minute, what is this? There's a thing growing inside me, and you know, what in the world's going on? So, because most of the women I have known pregnant with their first child are just so sick, just like green for 9 months straight, sick as dogs. I feel bad for them. And then once, you know, you've done it and your body recognizes it the second time or the third or the 10th or whatever, it's like, oh, okay, you're doing this to me again, huh? But the first time, I know pregnant women just get, they get so sick. So she might take a little, I mean, she handmade these as I ordered them anyway, so it was going to take 4 weeks, but it ended up taking like 6 or 7. And I'm like, oh, honey, don't worry about it. You know, you've got a little one growing inside you. You need to give that your focus. But it's really cute, because when you get a package from her, and I'll show you the bags here in a second, it comes wrapped in this little package here, and the ribbon says Marine Parents, at Marine Parents, which is their Etsy shop and their Instagram account. And then she sends you a couple of little coupons. And I love how she attached the coupons. She used a little clothespin clip. And so she will send you 10% off your next order. And then she sends you the golden ticket, which is good for 20% off your next shop order. And it's specific. I'm not going to show you the coupon code, but it's a specific coupon for you for your next order. And this one expires actually on April 5th. The one that's just the 10% off never expires. So you get coupon codes there. And then you get the little business card, which I think is cute. And it's got the cutest little kawaii girl on the back. And it says, shopmarineparents.com, bringing roughly goodness to all your handmade accessories. marineparents.shop@gmail.com, or Instagram is @marine_parents. So I will definitely be buying something from them again in the future. I just don't, I'm saving up for a new camera lens and out of the bonus money I got this year. So let me show you. Now, at first I thought these might be a little small, but these are going to be perfect for the Lizzie Kate snippets, because you don't need to put a Lizzie Kate snippet small one in a, I mean, it would look ridiculous if I put, let's face it, I mean, if I'm stitching the Live Well, Laugh Often one and I was carrying that little thing in this bag, in this giant bag, it would look ridiculous, right? And there's no need to waste all that space with the small piece. So I think these will be perfect for. I think these will be perfect for my small projects, or like when I'm doing ornaments. These will be perfect. So she does offer a variety of sizes of bags that she lists on her website, but this would be perfect for a little small cross stitch. So I got the coffee, because yeah, coffee is a main theme of this video, isn't it? You thought you were coming to Flosstube, but you ended up on Coffee Tube, I think. But I like how they've got a little flat bottom, and there's a cute little coordinating fabric on the inside, a mint green fabric, and I love the fabric. So this will be perfect. I can fit a Lizzie Kate small in there, and it'll be perfect. And then, of course, the geek in me, being a child of the 80s. I am just 3 months younger than Danielle. Child of the 80s. How many library cards I filled out in my childhood, I don't even know. But, yeah. So the library cards. And it's got a really pretty navy blue zipper on it and a coordinating navy blue pattern on the inside. And it's got the nice little squared off so that you can sit it up and put your stuff in it. So these are really nice, and I would highly recommend Marine parents. Oh my gosh, one of the library cards is from a Choose Your Own Adventure novel. I didn't read a lot of those, but yeah, I did read a few. So that's my haul. So that's the end of the stitching part of the video. I just thought I'd sit and chat with you for a few minutes. So if you don't want to sit and listen to me ramble on any longer, I understand completely. Just on the topic of books, I reread A Wrinkle in Time, and I was a little bit hesitant too, because the last book I reread from my youth that I really idolized as a teenager that I reread, I ended up hating as an adult, which was Contact by Carl Sagan. I mean, when I was a teenager, I thought I was Eleanor Arroway, and she was like the one female character I really identified with. And then in my late 30s, I reread that, and I was just like, why the heck did I like that book? So I was a little hesitant to reread A Wrinkle in Time, but I figured there was enough space between me reading it, because I probably read it when I was 7 or 8 years old, and now that I wouldn't remember what I thought of it back then anyway. And I absolutely adored it. However, I've heard tell that the movie pretty much erases any of the Christian parts of the book. Now, Madeleine L'Engle was a very devout Episcopalian, but she didn't beat you in the head with Christianity. But ironically, one of the witches, I believe the witch that Mindy Kaling plays, she would always quote scripture and quote philosophers, like ancient Greeks all the way up, and she would put religion, she would quote religion to the children. And I've heard that has pretty much been erased from the movie. So I'm pretty sure, because the reason I reread the book is because I wanted to see the movie, and I wanted to be able to have, some kind of idea about how much they screwed with the movie if I saw it. And they're really going to screw with it if they take the religious overtones out of it. But to me, it's not about, the religion is part of it, but it's more about this young girl whose father is in trouble, and she's determined to help him. And she takes her little brother and her best friend with her, and they end up going on this journey to a planet called Camazotz. And her father was working on technology. It was called a Tesseract. And basically, the way I interpret it is that, they said, the witches tell the kids, well, your father folded time. He created a wrinkle in time and folded time so that he could time travel. So kind of like a wormhole, I guess. And he ended up stranded and imprisoned on this planet. And so the kids are going to save him. And I do believe that if they made Charles Wallace an autistic kid, that would make perfect sense to the way that Madeleine L'Engle described the little boy, because she wrote the book in 1962. So autism wasn't recognized as a thing with a name. But, Meg is PO'd that kids are picking on her brother, and she starts a fight in school and gets in trouble. And her mother's basically telling her, look, you know, your brother just thinks differently than the rest of us do. He's not stupid, and you know, I admire the fact you're standing up for your brother, but you can't get yourself in trouble to do it. So I would assume that if Madeline L'Engle were writing the book in 2018, Charles Wallace Murray would be an autistic kid. So I think that's really cool. But so they end up getting to the planet. The witches help them get to the planet, and it's like the creepiest thing. That scene in the trailer where they show the neighborhood street where it's all the exact same houses and the exact same kids bouncing the exact same ball, that's straight out of the book. And basically there's this evil ruler of this planet who basically wants to force everyone to be the same. So at its heart, it's a book about not conforming, which in the 60s, in the early 60s, I could see that being an important theme. And it's just as important today, as I figure. But I don't know that I'm going to see the movie now that I know they pretty much decimated the book because there's something wrong with Christianity. So I don't know that I'm going to see that. But one movie I did see, Bill went out of town Saturday to visit with his parents, and he got stranded there because of the weather here. I watched Coco. Beautiful movie. I think that is now my favorite Pixar movie ever. Oh, it was so touching though. If you watch it, have at least one full box of tissues with you, because I mean, given the mere fact that the theme is the Day of the Dead, yeah, but it's about family, and it's about how we're still tied to our family even when they pass on, and how we will all be together again someday. And I just think there's something so touching about the idea of Dia de los Muertos anyway, because the way it's explained in the movie is that that's the one day where the dead can cross over and be with the living. And like the spirits of our dead ancestors can come back and be with us for just one day. And who among us hasn't lost a loved one and wish we could just have one more day with them? You know? I mean, we've all been through that, whether it's a mother or father, sister, cousin, uncle, whatever, grandparent, you know. I mean, how many of us have wished we could just have one more day? So that whole imagery, and then the story, I was just sobbing, because of course it made me think of my grandparents, and you know how my grandmother was my best friend. She really was, and she passed away in 2000, and you know, she really was like my best friend. I always considered her like a second mom, not even a grandmother. And you know, I think it's just that's what we cling to when we lose a loved one, is that they are still with us, and they will be with us in whatever is to come after. And the thing I think that is really, really speaks a lot to the people who made this movie, I read an interview with the screenwriters, and they're both white guys. And they said at first they developed this concept for the story, and they were worried that it would be easy to be accused of cultural misappropriation if they wrote a movie about the Day of the Dead and didn't know anything about it. So they went to Mexico, and they talked to a lot of, you know, they just went and talked to people about, well, what is your celebration of the Day of the Dead like? What is the symbolism? What does this mean? How does this keep us connected to those of our relatives who are in the afterlife? And they really did a lot of research, and you could tell. You could tell. The only two actors who I recognized in the entire voiceover thing was Gael Garcia Bernal plays the protagonist, and the antagonist is played by Benjamin Bratt. So it was a lot of relatively unknown voiceover artists, but it was beautiful. Well, I don't know that they were unknown to me. I mean, maybe if you watch a lot of Hispanic cinema, you would know these people. That sounded wrong. I probably shouldn't have said it that way. But Coco is an amazing movie, and I can see why the song "Remember Me" won the Oscar, because that song had me in a puddle of mush bawling on the floor. I mean, that song took me completely out. So definitely deserved the Oscar. So Coco is great. Whether or not you have kids or whether or not you're by yourself, you should watch it. Another thing I've gotten into that it defies explanation, but it's a really good TV show, is the show Counterpart on Starz. I knew J.K. Simmons was a good actor because I remembered him being in Oz, and he played that evil white supremacist prisoner who was like the gang banging thug of the prison who, oh, he was awful in that show, but that proved how good an actor he was to me. Um, and if you've ever just seen him on the Farmers Insurance commercials, you have no idea what he can do. Um, so it's so hard to explain. You really have to watch it for yourself. But it's basically kind of like what J.J. Abrams tried to do with Fringe in the beginning with the alternate universes, only instead of aliens being responsible, it's spies. And it's really hard to explain the concept of it, but J.K. Simmons, he plays this guy who's a spy. Well, he's like a low-level guy in the premiere episode. And, you know, he just goes about his life. He's kind of milquetoast, not really, you know, whatever. And then one day, his superior basically takes him in this room and says, we need to talk. And this other guy, J.K. Simmons in the dual role, comes in and his character, the character in the current universe, which is called the Alpha Universe, is like, what in the unholy hell is this? Who is he and why does he look like me and where did he come from? And so then he finds out that in that building that he's worked in for his entire career, there's a portal to an alternate dimension and where everybody has a double. And his double has come across the portal because there's trouble. There's an assassin that's gotten across to our universe, and they need to work together to try to stop her. And the actress, one of the actresses, there's two female assassins, and one of them is the actress Naz Bondiani, who, if you know anything about Scientology, she was supposed to be Tom Cruise's new hot chickie after he divorced Katie Holmes. And then she said something bad about David Miscavige, and well, bam, there went her reputation. She was kicked out. She was forced out. Tom Cruise disavowed any knowledge of her. So I'm glad to see that she's able to have a comeback role, because she has a pretty major role in this series because she got so screwed by Scientology. But that's a whole other story. And so then it's slowly revealed that the reason the alternate universe exists is because during the Cold War, in this building, there were experiments being done that kind of split the universe. And it created an alternate universe called the Prime Universe, where everybody has an exact physical double. But the difference is, in that universe, one decision they made took their life in a completely different path than the lives that we have in the current universe. And it's a spy thriller, and it's really hard to explain it, but it is really good. And the only thing is, I cannot stitch and watch that show because you have to really be focused in on it because you're going to miss some tiny detail. Kind of like the way Fringe got in the later parts of the series when the alien thing started going on. So, yeah, I mean, it's really, really good. Right now there's only 8 episodes, so you could binge watch it pretty easy. I find that when I start watching an episode, it's over before I realize it's even been an hour because it really draws you in. And J.K. Simmons is brilliant because he plays the same guy but in 2 totally opposite ways. Like the Howard Silk of our universe is just kind of a milquetoast everyman, doesn't really, shake things up. And then in the Prime universe, in the alternate side of things, he's a badass assassin. He kill people with his bare hands, uses the F word all the time, like the total opposite. And it's just brilliant to see him play 2 sides of the same coin that way. So that's a really good show. I'm reading several different books right now. Not really very many of them that I've gotten too far into. I'm reading Killing Reagan by Bill O'Reilly, which is good. And I started the year reading Killing England, which I finished, which was also very good. I'm also reading a book. It's called Renegades, and it's by Melissa Meyer, who wrote the Luna series, and it's a young adult series where she took like Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella, and something else and turned them on their ear and gave them like a modern twist, because I think like in Sleeping Beauty, in one of them, it might be Cinderella, in one of them the main female character is like an android or something. So I mean, she did the Luna series, which I kind of want to read just because I'm curious to see how she took fairy tales and gave them a modern twist. But this is it's a superhero story, but it's told from the point of view of one of the antagonists. who also has superpowers, but she's one of the supervillains, so to speak. And it's kind of an interesting take on it because she's a supervillain. She was a member of the group called the Anarchists, and the Renegades are the superhero good guys. And she's part of her group's attempt to infiltrate the Renegades, and then she ends up falling in love with one of the Renegades. So it's kind of a typical teenage book, but it's just interesting. I like to read young adult fiction just to see what kinds of things are out there for young adults these days. And this is probably the kind of book I might have liked when I was younger. I did read a lot of sci-fi and fantasy, so I probably would have gravitated to a book like this. But that's really about it. Oh, I forgot one other little bit of my haul that those of you who follow me on Facebook might have seen. I have to explain this first of all. I'm obsessed with vintage robots, and they're actually very hard to find. So when I do find something vintage robot related, I generally buy it. This little dude came home with me last night. I went to Amherst and I had dinner, and then I went to my favorite stationery store. And I just happened to turn around when I was looking for some cards, and I saw this little guy. And isn't he cute? He's supposed to be a lunchbox, but I'm actually using him to hold my stitching accoutrements that I just kind of have scattered all over the place. So I've got a couple of pairs of my reading glasses in here. My little measuring template thing. You know what I was trying to say earlier. It just wouldn't come out of my mouth right. Now, believe it or not, these are just jinky, cheap little chip clips that I bought at the store, at the grocery store last time I was there. But I use them when I roll up my fabric to, attach the fabric to the hoop so that the excess fabric isn't in the way. And they actually work pretty well. I mean, just some jinky little chip clips. And then, of course, the few scissors I have not actually lost down the sofa cushions. We're thinking about getting a new sofa this year, and I swear when the movers come to take that one out, it's going to be worse than the end scene of Dead Again. Which, by the way, if you haven't seen that movie, that's an early Kenneth Branagh, Emma Thompson movie from the mid-90s, or the early 90s, I guess. Good one. And then I've got some little bead packets in here. So he's holding my random bits and bobs for my, and a pack of needles, because I've gotten to where all I use are peacemakers now. I haven't bought any DMC needles in a while, so this little dude is guarding. He's the guardian of my stitchy stuff. So I just thought he was so adorable. Isn't he cute? So I'm a sucker for a vintage robot. But let's see, what else can I... Oh, just before I go, I have a philosophical question for my Flosstube viewers. This is something that's really been bothering me since Sunday. And when I come out of church feeling mad about something, I feel like I need to go back and try again because I missed the point. Let me just ask you this. If you were going to be enough of a jerk to talk about someone behind their back, would you tell them that you did? It's such a long story, and I don't want to make this video any longer because we're at 1 hour and 11 minutes now. But basically what it boils down to is I have always been in the bell choir since we joined this church back in 2004. And back in 2015, my job hours changed because we started doing this. It was their attempt at giving us flex time, and they were trying to make it work because we don't do a 40-hour week. We do a 37.5. So they couldn't just give us off a day every 2 weeks because it wouldn't have fit in with the hours that we have to have. So their idea was if we could do one 40-hour week and a 35-hour week, in that 35-hour week, we could have a half day. So that's what I started doing in 2015. Now, the only caveat is that pushed my workday back a half an hour. So I used to work 8:30 to 4:45, but now I work 8:30 to 5:15. Well, I work in Springfield, which is 45 minutes away from here. Well, bell choir practice starts at 5:45. Well, I told Judy when my work schedule changed that I wasn't going to be able to be on time to bell choir, but that I could probably make it there by 6. Unless there was just some kind of traffic problem or something, or I was late leaving work. So I've been taking crap off and on for being late. But last week we had our second nor'easter on Wednesday because our bell choir and vocal choir stuff is all on Wednesdays. So we rescheduled it to Thursday. And Thursday I got stuck at work. I was having the kind of day where I just wanted to either just go home or just cry or something. I was having a rough day. So I knew I was going to be running late leaving work, and I texted my bell choir director and I just said, I'm going to be running late. So hopefully I won't be too much past 6 getting there, but I just wanted you to know I'm going to be running late. So on Sunday, she says something to me to the effect of, let me ask you a question. You do know that bell choir starts at 5:45, right? And I said, yes, and you do know that I work in Springfield and I can't get off work till 5:15. And she's like, well, I just wondered because you're always late. So I was laughing at your text. I shared your text and was poking fun at you in bell choir rehearsal because, and so I just kind of rolled my eyes at her and said, well, I guess I should have said I will be later than usual. But I was so pissed off. I mean, what kind of person talks about you behind your back and then tells you? And this is someone who's supposed to be a friend of mine. So because I've been going through this off and on, I mean, there's really only 2 solutions. Either they accept the fact that I'm always going to be late and shut up about it and stop needling me about it, or I quit. And I don't want to quit because I enjoy playing handbells. And the music ministry is the way that I can be involved in the church. I don't have the time to serve the suppers. I don't have, the Bible studies are in the mornings during the week. So obviously I'm working. I can't participate that way. I wouldn't know my way around a sewing machine to be a part of the chapel quilters. And even if I did, they meet on Fridays because they're mostly retired women. So the one way that I can really get back to the church is to be involved in the music. And I don't want to have to quit playing handbells because that's what I love to do. Music. Music's been a part of my life since I was 6 years old. So I'm just frustrated because I don't want to have to quit, but at the same time, if I'm holding them back for whatever reason, which trust me, I'm not, because there are plenty of other people in there who are not that good, who are holding us back. If I was holding us back, then I would quit for the betterment of the group, but we've already got one woman who's not that good, who is actually going to be leaving because her daughter graduates high school this year and is going to go to college out. I think she's going to Occidental out in California. And her family's all from Washington State anyway. So when their son finishes his sophomore year in high school, they're going to move out to Washington State because this woman's father has got Alzheimer's and is doing really poorly, and she wants to be there to help her mother with it and all. So we're already losing this woman. And one of the teenagers who plays with us, I'm not sure he's really good. And I mean, to me, with bells, not to get off on a tangent about handbells, you don't have to read music, but you have to have a really good sense of rhythm to play handbells. Rhythm is more important because let's say I'm playing 2 bells. Well, our choir director, she takes all the music, and when she assigns you bells, like let's say I'm playing a C5 and a D5, all the C5s in the piece will be circled in red, and all the D5s would be circled in green. So even if I didn't read music and know what notes I was looking at, I would know when to play which bell. It's more a concept of having a good sense of rhythm to be able to count the rhythms that you're playing. And Heath is really good. I mean, he's a tuba player, so he's got good rhythm because poor kid, all he does in band is play on the offbeats, right? So he's really good with it, but we're probably going to lose him because I think he's filling in for us now for Easter, but I don't think he can make the commitment because he's a high school kid and he's got 20 million things going on anyway. So if I quit, that's really going to gut the choir, and I don't want to do that, but I don't know. And I'm tired of talking to Judy about it because I've told her before. And, I know you're probably sitting there thinking, well, could you alter your work schedule? Well, I could. I could alter my work schedule to do 8 to 4:45 so I could still have that little half day. But my problem with that is sometimes Wednesday mornings during the football season are the only time I have with my husband. Because Tuesday afternoon and Thursday afternoons they practice, but Wednesday is their sole night practice during the season. So they don't start until 7, and they usually go from 7 to 9 or 7 to 9:30, depending on how pissed off Coach Whipple gets at the kids. How much he makes them have to run, I guess. But so then after practice, Bill has to get the film broken down, and get it all in the server so that the next morning at 8 o'clock in the staff meeting, they can watch the film together. And of course, you know, if it takes 2 hours to film, it takes 2 hours to break down. So sometimes I don't see Bill on Wednesday nights during the season. So I don't want to have to get up earlier to go to work and sacrifice any time I have with him on Wednesday mornings. I mean, it's only like an hour plus a few odd minutes anyway. So I could change my hours, but I don't feel like I should have to, first of all. And I don't want to give up my time with my husband because he comes first. And so the other alternative is to give up my little half day every 2 weeks. But that has been my saving grace recently, knowing that I have some time off coming that I don't have to use any of my actual time off to have. So, you know, I don't want to give that up because that's like my mental health break. So I don't know. I don't know, guys. I don't know what to do. The stubborn part of me feels like telling her to sod off and then I quit. But so Bill says he thinks I should talk to our minister. He said, you know, you've tried talking to Judy and it's obviously fallen on deaf ears. So I think I probably will talk to Barbara about it, but that's not going to really solve the issue. The only two things that'll solve it are is if they accept the fact that I'm late or I quit. And actually, I'm really relieved because usually Mother's Day Sunday is the last Sunday we play for the year because we start around Labor Day and we play once a month. And then, of course, we do Palm Sunday, Easter Sunday. They do a Christmas Eve service, but I'm never at Christmas Eve service because we're always traveling. You know, they do the Christmas Eve service and then we do Easter, Palm Sunday, Easter Sunday. And then usually Mother's Day Sunday is the last Sunday we play for the year. But this year, John and Judy are going to Ohio to visit with their grandchildren so that they can be there for Mother's Day. So bells are over after Easter Sunday, so I won't have bells from April 1st through Labor Day, which I'm kind of looking forward to the break because I'm just tired of being cut down every time. It's like, you know, if I didn't have to work in Springfield, I wouldn't. But there's no jobs in Amherst and Hadley to be had. So, you know, got to pay the rent to go where the job is. I mean, if I wasn't putting 300 miles a week on my car, I'd be happy, but that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So, you know, something's got to give. But if any of you have any advice for me, please let me know because I'm just at my wit's end. I'm ready to quit, but I don't want to make that decision in haste. I don't want it to be just that I'm pissed off and I say, well, fine, then I quit. And then later I wish I hadn't kind of thing. I was talking to my mom about it yesterday. And she said, well, I guarantee you they'd backpedal if you told them you quit. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to throw a tantrum about it. That's not my style. That's not my style. If I can't handle something diplomatically, I tend to just not say anything. So I don't know. I'm going to figure it out, but I just appreciate any advice because I just cannot believe that somebody I consider a friend would A, talk about me behind my back and B, tell me that she was. I mean, really? You're actually going there with me. I mean, I can't control what anyone says about me behind my back when I'm not listening, but you can't worry about what people say about you when you're not in the room. But when you are in the room, that's a whole other ball game. So I don't know, folks. Anyway, enough of this hot mess rambling video. Talked your ears off for an hour and 21 minutes. So I think I just better go stitch some so that I actually have something to show you in another video sometime before I get old and gray. But as always, I thank you so much for your support. And if you made it this far, I apologize. I apologize for the hot mess. I apologize for the hair thing. I was supposed to go today to get a perm. And that was part of the reason I didn't do a video before now was because my hair was so, I needed a haircut. And I don't know about y'all, but when my hair gets long, it doesn't get long this way. I mean, I do get split ends, but it doesn't get long this way. It gets long on the top. So my hair will start doing this really long, floppy, like part down the middle thing, but not on purpose. And then my bangs get in my eyebrows. And I looked like a Muppet on crack. So until I got my hair cut, I wasn't going to. So I was supposed to have a perm today, and now I don't know when I'm going to get to because my stylist was going out of town. And that's why I was going to do it today. But yeah, it was blizzard outside. So Anyway, thanks for hanging in there with me, guys. You know I love you all. And until next time, I wish you happy stitching and a happy life. And if you're in the wake of this storm, please be safe. And if you're not, can I come visit? I promise I won't bring the bad weather. Until next time, guys. Talk to you later.